Welcome to the Live Your Adventure podcast, a place for stories, ideas, and conversations that challenge you to live with intention and create an adventure that's truly your own. Let's go. Cool. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Live Your Adventure podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hand, and today I'm sitting here with somebody that's been a friend of mine, almost a big brother, since I was wee tall. Clifton Ames, welcome.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah. It's been a long time. I'm going to start right off with.
It's literally been a lifetime.
It has.
what we've done so far.
But I'm going to start right off with. We were going to a moose hunt. Me with some friends, you with some other friends, up at the Bragg's camp.
Yeah, when Brian and Bruce owned the camp on Big Machias.
And we pulled in at the same time. Your truck pulled in, my truck pulled in. We got out and went, "Hi, neighbor."
Didn't have any idea we were going to be there.
Exactly. We had no idea.
And hadn't seen each other.
And we lived half a mile apart.
Yeah, within hollering distance.
And hadn't actually seen each other in, quite a few years.
It was a while.
And so that was...
It's fun. I mean, you're so close, and funny how, you cross paths, but you do it 4.5 hours from home.
Exactly. So the Live Your Adventure podcast, as you know, folks, is all about choosing to get out and take adventure and do things to challenge yourself. This episode is really about comfort, and we're not really going to be talking about comfort, but the focus is that I've talked about a lot, that is comfort is the enemy. If we choose the path of comfort, right, we're going to go backwards.
Yeah, you need to get off the couch.
Exactly. And that's something I've always believed in. But why don't I start off? Tell us a little bit about your background. And it's been a long time, but tell us a little bit about Clifton Ames.
How far back do you want to go?
Oh, gosh. We were talking the other day about doing this, and I loved how you said, I can't remember how you said it. It was like, I got out and adventured a little bit and hunted with you when I could get away, or I can't remember what the word you used, and it was perfect.
What I said was, when your mother was at work and my mother was at work, I'd come and steal you out of your house and not tell anybody I had you. And we'd go over and sit behind Rocky Pond or something with shotguns and the dog, and we'd shoot at ducks, and then I'd say, "Don't tell your mother."
Oh yeah, exactly.
We can talk about our mothers now. They've both passed. They were nurses. They went to college together. And this is to set a little bit more history on Steve and I. Is we go back to where his mother and my mother were on a party line on telephones.
Yes.
That's on the old rotary.
Yeah. One ringy dingy was
right.
I think there was 3 parties on our line.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
I think I know there was just you. I know your mother and my mother were on one phone line. Yeah. And you had a specific ring, and we had a specific ring.
I think the house 2 houses up the street was on the other.
Well, it's possible.
Yeah, because they were the 3 rings.
We were the only 3 houses at the time,
and you were the one.
Right.
That is a ways back there.
Yeah. How long has it been since party lines?
Wow.
7. It's got to be 55 years or something.
So we both grew up in West Rockport. Where'd your path take you? What have you been up to for?
Well, I mean, I had an uncle that was very close to me that was a guide. And growing up, I going to what maybe was my number one muse, was Uncle Roy. He used to take fishermen out. I was like, man, that's cool. I'm thinking, how do you get to do that? And of course, you look at it now and you realize Uncle Roy had about 8 jobs. Mm-hmm. And he was capable of doing a lot of different things from in general, mechanically and all that. So, but, I start out like everybody else. You go to high school, try to figure out what you want to be. and spending a lot of time outdoors. I remember a lot of summers with the Braggs running motorcycles, and there would be summers where my bed wouldn't get made for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
We'd live on Mount Pleasant with dirt bikes, and
Yep.
if you had enough gas in your gas tank, you
were
didn't
going.
have anything else you had to do. And so we'd go ride around the mountain, ride around all day, hunt, fish all summer, hunt all fall. Then school would get in the way, and we'd go to high school, and by the time you do your job, and it's funny because some of the guys I worked with in high school are still some of the guys I hang out with now.
Oh yeah.
Snowmobiling and that sort of thing.
It almost seems, at least for me, and I think a little bit for you, it's like a lot of people disappeared,
Yeah.
but then they start coming back.
Well, they found their niches.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of it is about. If you're predisposed to play hard, you have to work hard. But work hard, play hard, earn some money, get by, but do it in the funnest way you can find. Because there's jobs. There's always a job, but there's not a great job. And some of the neat jobs I've had great bosses. Worked at the grocery store for Harold Crockett, who was friends with my father. And when they built the new Hannaford, I did that for a while when I was a kid, just out of school. Dave Bragg moved to Louisiana, and he was my best friend. And, we were, practically joined at the hip. We did everything together. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? And so he calls me up and he says, hey, bring my car down. I'm, 18-year-old kid. No clue what it is to drive cross country, jump in his Mustang and drive down Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
And work for his uncle doing landscaping, which got me out of that, that mundane day-to-day job stuff. And of course, the whole big reason was Louisiana has some of the best duck hunting on the planet.
Okay.
So we're down in Catahoula Lake, wading out in waist-deep water in the dark with flashlights and shotguns, headed for somebody who we don't even know is blind, with decoys set up, and getting ready to go teal hunting. And so those are the kind of adventures that you look forward to, you live for. And if you look around the room and see all the photos of all the stuff, it's
crazy.
Yeah, there's
turkeys and moose and ducks and deer
and you're pursuing that, but also you're trying to make a job or work. So you're wearing a lot of different hats. So I went down there and landscaped just so I could get to duck hunt on that, Catahoula Lake. And that's sort of, you watch the TV with like the Duck Dynasty guys. They're all down in that area.
Okay.
So that's kind of, the kind of hunting we're doing, woods, mallard hunting, and across from Catahoula was Saline Lake, Saline Swamp, and that was 6,500 acres of flooded timber.
Wow.
And you just take, Mainer, well, we don't care, let's go, I got a compass. And you're wading around in the water up to your knees, just wading along, looking, watching out, looking. You see something coming at you, hope it's not a snake, because I can wrestle a bear, but I will not mess with a snake.
You must have headed down there. I remember an afternoon where we were out doing something, and you had an old orange Ventura, was it?
Oh.
Pontiac Ventura.
Yeah, I had a Pontiac Ventura.
I can't remember what the mileage was.
4-door. It had 100,000 because I stopped and power braked it.
I was going to say, we were.
Was you with me?
I was the one with you.
Yeah. I look down at the odometer. I go, and I go 99999 and 9/10. And I go, hang on. I pulled over to the side of the road by
Macy's Pond. It was just up the road here. I remember it.
And I go, hang on. And I dropped it into low and stomped on the gas and got the wheels spinning, and I power braked it through to 100,000.
Yeah. That must have been before you headed down to Louisiana, or maybe after you get back.
I didn't take that down. No, I had bought that. Do you remember that Blazer I had?
Yeah.
That monster Blazer with the big engine and that thing. It had a big 4-speed in it, like you have in a.
Yep.
like in a big truck, and not the column, and not the little floor shifter, but the big 4-speed.
Big long stick.
And I could catch 4 gears with that thing. We'd put it in low range, and you could get out. It had a granny gear, and you could get out and walk beside the truck. It was great off-road vehicle.
Cool.
Paul Bickford, my neighbor, still my neighbor, put a paint job on it, and the thing was immaculate.
Cool.
Just me. So when I moved to Louisiana, I took Dave's car down to deliver it to him. And I called my father and I said, I'm not coming back. I'm just going to stay here for a couple months. And then 8 months later, I decided it's time to come home. But had my father take the truck, and he ended up selling it.
Okay.
And I said, I wish I wouldn't have sold that truck.
So when did you came back after a while, and I know you got into guiding it? So how long until
it was a while after that, because I knew what I wanted to do, but I also knew that I couldn't live off grid because I had no clue how to do it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to get in a place where I was capable of doing some things, because I didn't have a lot of skills. I could push a lawnmower, and I could, dig a hole, and I could, pour cement in a post and build a deck or something. But carpentry was a great skill to have.
Yep.
But I wanted to get a little bit deeper into it, and I got invited. At that time, I'd come back. I went to work at Rankin's Hardware, so I was working around a few of the local carpenter contractors, and I didn't see I wanted to go that route. I could have jumped off and gone that route, but then a boat builder came in, and it wasn't Rockport Marine. I hadn't got there yet, but it was Stewart Marine down in. They were building day sailors. I said,
okay.
Well, that's kind of cool. So they had a shop on Route 1. I started in there, worked, and they were trying to build 2 boats a month. And I said, we could probably speed this up a little bit. In my mind, I'm thinking we can make these steps shorter and do this while that's happening. So I did a schedule, and I got it down to 4 boats in a month.
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's pretty good. So then I started fine-tuning that schedule, and I got down to 2 boats a week. And at that point, they moved to Rockland, and no more money was being made. I said, well, I'm killing myself to prove I can. We ended up building 75 boats in 10 months.
Wow.
And some of them were shipped to, as far away as Hawaii for the Navy bought a bunch. They were day sailors. They were just simple day sailing sailboats with a lot of fiberglass work. It was like, ugh, nasty fiberglass. So I realized I was running a temperature sick most of the time just from working in the styrenes, and I thought I better opt out of that. Ran into my buddy Al.
Yeah.
You know him well.
I know him well.
And Alan says, hey, I'm working with Scott Rockneck at Rockneck's Yacht Sales over in Rockport for Bill Rockneck, his father. And we need a guy. I'm like, I'll be there tomorrow.
There you go.
So I went over and talked with him, and he hired me. And so I went and gave my notice and worked my time and went to work at Rockneck's, which gave me more of the skills that I was looking for.
Yep.
We started doing electronics and electrical work, and we did a lot of mechanical stuff, diesel work. We were working on engines and that, and doing deliveries, which was, I'm like, I get to go on the boats.
Nice.
So we started doing offshore stuff. So here I am, 22 years old, and we're delivering, Scott and I are delivering a 31-foot Blue Seas Down East style hull to New Jersey. Nice. Just green as could be, but fearless. And so adventure, and I loved it. We did a lot of that type of work working for Rockneck's, and we got to do the boat show. So you go to Portland and be in the show, and you get to the show experience. Talking with people, clients, customers coming on. You show them the boat, how things work, demos, taking people out, riding them around the bay, show them how the boats work. Very cool job.
Yeah.
Physical. We did a lot of the installations. Well, the economy kind of died in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. And I was married. I was, working for Bill, and Bill came to me and he says, get in the truck. And I said, where are we going? He says, I get in the truck and we're driving down the road, and he says, I can't afford to keep you anymore. I go, I had outlasted everybody else that worked there, except even his own son had been laid off, and I was still working. And at that time, Scott had gone to Washington, D.C. to intern for one of the representatives down there. And so he was looking to do something different at that moment in his life. Now he's back and he runs it again. But that's a story you can ask him about, because if you want adventure, he's another great one for adventure.
Certainly has.
He and I raced Obie Cats and stuff together during that time period, and sailed and did all kinds of cool stuff. That was a lot of fun. I got all my sea time in for my captain's license during that job.
Okay.
700 and something days. So that was a good piece of what I needed to do, and I still wasn't ready to guide. I went to work for Taylor Allen because Bill, the day he put me in the truck, that's where we were headed down to talk to Taylor. And we went in and he said, Taylor, this is Cliff Ames. He said, he's been working for me for the last 3.5, 4 years. You're not going to find a better guy. And this is the boss saying this, not me. He says, you have to hire him. And then Taylor looked at him and he goes, can you start in November? And I said, yep. And that was it. And I went to work for Taylor. One of the greatest jobs I ever had. It was just a fantastic place to work. A lot of really super craftsmen down there.
They did some beautiful boats.
Just amazing guys to work around. And so I got to mentor through that. And the greatest part of working there was, like the Micro Works has work programs where you don't go to school for it. You do it.
Right.
And learn how to do it. Taylor, at that time, when I started, there was 7 of us. When I got out of there was 63 of us. And there was all young people coming in. He would quickly give you a chance to try what you wanted to do.
Nice.
And you could build yourself up. And I already had the electrical skills. I already had the boat handling skills. So I was well on my way to, a decent place there. And then I did the dive work. I did diving for about 10 years, did mooring work, and I did a bunch of that, repairs for boats too big to lift, changing zincs and, smaller projects. And he'd say, well, I'm not going to hire you as a diver. He says, you subcontract that. So I could make seriously good money doing that stuff on the side. And it worked out. And so in my adventures, I used to say I'd do tree work on the weekends, that I'd learned in Louisiana, doing trees and climbing and all that. And I said I was either 60 feet in the air or 60 feet underwater.
So we're already, I don't know how many minutes we've been talking away here, but we've already had you mentioned cutting trees, you mentioned diving.
Which I still do.
Sailing, wiring boats.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I didn't mention that a lot of what I did was fabrication work, welding and plumbing, mechanical, fire suppression, refrigeration. We did all of it. But that's what the boat world allows you to do that. It's less restrictive in the boat world than it is, like, say, in a house world. Yep. So if you're working for a carpenter, you can be an electrician, or you can be a plumber, or you can be, but you can't really, you can overlap, but you have the licenses for all of that. On yachts, you just do it. And the only parameters you have to live under are, if it's a yacht that's being built for, say, for instance, there's going to be a school. We built a few that were schooners that were schools, where people come in and learn, and they take the boat, and it's like a school. Or if it's going to be something that's built for the Chamber of Commerce of Bermuda, we built that boat for them. That had some parameters that you had to follow, like Lloyd's of London, because the Bermudan boats are under English rules. So we had to follow Lloyd's of London Insurance Company's regulations instead of the American Boat and Yacht Council.
Interesting.
And so I had no certifications, but we were building the boat called the Lynx, and Taylor says, "Hey," he goes, "the school out of Portland's coming up with a class today. Can you give them a tour of what you're doing on Lynx?" I said, "Sure." So I took him in and I showed him, because I've been working with the Coast Guard on this particular project, and we had to pass a bunch of stringent regulations and I had to hand build all of my panels because you couldn't buy this, all custom. And so here I am with no ABYC certification, no certification whatsoever, and I'm teaching the class of the kids that are taking the courses to get the certification to do the work I'm doing. So, getting in under the wire when you're young. But 17 years doing that job, and loved every minute of it. But toward the end of it, I started, the itch for guiding started really rubbing me. So I was like, I need to go up north. I need to get in the bushes. I'd shot a few moose, or I shot a moose with my dad, and I knew that was kind of where I wanted to go.
So before we
I was about 30 when that, so
wow.
30-ish.
So before we go down the guiding path, I was just sitting down with my sister yesterday, and she was talking about Girl Scouts and your grandmother.
That's a great offshoot. That's another great muse.
Oh, we could go a million places here.
Yeah.
But she talked about how your grandmother loved to get the Girl Scouts out on boats in the bay and such. So I'm assuming you must have. All
right, I have to admit. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that I did not. Oh boy. A lot of guys will tell you I was an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
I was a Girl Scout.
Yeah.
That's funny. We used to go to Camp Wampami, and I would go in. My mother was a leader, so she would be involved in it, and all the kids had to, there was a bunch of us boys that ended up at the camp because we had nowhere else to be. It was Ruth Wade was there, so Billy Wade was there, and there was a guy from down, Chris Caron from down in Thomaston he was always there every summer, and we all looked forward to getting together and being at Girl Scout camp.
Yep.
But we were the chickadee tent, and so we'd go and take all the classes with the girls. We'd help them set up tents. We'd do all kinds of fun stuff, and I knew all the flowers, all the trees, all the bushes, all the bugs, everything there was about outdoors from Graham before I was probably, 14 or 15 years old.
That's awesome.
Because at that age, you don't go to Girl Scout camp anymore because now you're a liability and chasing the girls around. But swimming in the swimming class and, doing all that stuff, we're probably, 9, 10, 11 years old.
Well, I remember occasionally going down to your grandmother's place right on the harbor.
Yep.
It was such
cool.
Graham's
house right on Rockport Harbor. Your sister probably would have been on with her, and I would say with Diane Kimball.
Yeah.
And my sister Carolyn and Linda Twitchell. There's a lot of the local girls.
From the past,
well, it's not uncommon for me to meet somebody now in their 80s or 70s and say, I was in your grandmother's Girl Scout troop.
Exactly.
And the youngest the last class she had was my two cousins, my niece and my cousin. Angelica was my second cousin. She's my cousin's daughter. And my sister Kathy's daughter Mariah were her last two troop members. And there's a photo somewhere we saw just the other day, we're cleaning up the house, of them marching in the parade with Graham. It was the last parade that Graham marched in with the Girl Scout troop. Was her two cool. youngest great grandchildren.
Yeah. That was just a left turn, Clyde.
Well, you have to admit that I was not a Boy Scout. I was a Girl Scout. But I
didn't know that, so that was...
I probably did. But I did several trips. Grandmother had that Volkswagen bus.
Yes.
She was a hippie. I said, my grandmother's a hippie. She's got a Volkswagen bus with a pop top. Yep. And Grandpa and I would go down. We'd help the girls set up the tents and get everything set up. And then Grandpa and I'd take the camper, and we'd go camping in the camper.
Neat.
So all over New Hampshire, White Mountains, all that stuff. I did a bunch of that stuff with the girls.
Other adventures.
Well, yeah, I didn't. It's not something. It didn't dawn on me. It was just my normal life. So I didn't think of it as an extra.
No.
But again, what leads you into the outdoors and leads you to lead people in activities and the fun of it, and then of course growing up and through high school and this hunting, Dave Bragg and I hunting with his grandfather up in Skowhegan and everything you can think of that way, the adventures that came from that side of it, and the want to be there, and how do you do this all the time? And guiding was a way to make money doing, and I always said that I've had an unbelievably lucky knack of finding ways to make money doing stuff people pay to do, and that was the boat deliveries. People pay to use those yachts. I got paid to take their boats. And not bragging, very grateful that it worked out that way. I think availability, being in the right place to be available to do something for somebody and not being afraid to say, yep, yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, 2 episodes ago, I just had Stephen on and was talking to him. And one of the things he commented on was for a long time, he was leading 600-700 people a summer on kayak tours out in the bay, and people would be like, "You get paid to do that? That's what I do on the weekend for fun, and you get paid?"
Right. As I think a lot of people don't recognize, but
it's hard work.
You say it like that, and it sounds like you're getting paid to do that. You're a stinker. Well, no. There's a certain amount of responsibility that goes with it, a certain amount of cost that goes with it. There's a certain, you give up. I think, I always say, I'd be rich if I put this much energy into something that made money. And somebody said, what would you ever do if you won the megabucks? I said, I'd guide till it was all gone. Because it's not about the money. It's about the lifestyle. It's about the opportunity to have the adventures. And if you can't buy a yacht and you can run one, do it. Yeah. Go do it. Take that boat and go when he's done with it and go down, take get dropped off in Concordia and bring a boat up through the canal and up through and back home, in fall when it's crappy weather and nobody else wants to be out there. We did that one, came back from the Boston Boat Show with a boat, Scott Rocknack, and we looked, and we were out off the Isle of Shoals, and this is an offshoot of a story, but we see this small, I can only describe it like a 1960s fiberglass, with the fin sides on it. Mm-hmm. You remember? I'm like, what is that little boat doing out here? It had one of those Mercury outboards with the, big, tall inline motors about this wide, but they're like 3 feet tall, And he's like, it won't stay running. I'm like, it was 8-foot seas. We were running on the fly bridge on purpose because you couldn't see through the windshield. There was so much spray. So we just put on our fouls and it was warm out, so it wasn't like it was miserable. It was, September, early September. So I said, well, we're going to have to get them off of their boat. And you can imagine in these seas, it's a boat.
That's hard.
We're just rolling, one rail to the other and trying to keep the boat. And I said, can you back on them? And he said, yeah, I can back up to them. I go, well, I'll try to get a line on the boat and I'll try to get it rigged. So I'm messing around in the cockpit, getting everything together. Scott's running the boat, and the guy comes up. We come back up to him, and he could maneuver, but he couldn't go because it's just the waves are just, the height of the ceiling and just big rollers. And he's like losing it. He's a golden retriever, 7-year-old boy, and his wife, and they're all in like shorts and t-shirt, and we're 9 miles out in a blow, 40 knot blow. So I said, well, this is going to be interesting. So anyway, long story short, after almost getting cut in half by the rope and some other things, because the guy that we rescued had made some errors in helping or not helping. But those kind of things, those memories, those are the things that come back to you when you start talking like we're talking now. That story I haven't told in ages, but remember getting the wife off the boat. I got the kid first, and I said, okay, I got the kid. It was so rough, we had pulled our dinghy in and put it in the cockpit. We couldn't haul it, couldn't tow it because it was just it was going to sink it. Yeah. It was so rough. So I had to, that was in the way, sort of. So anyway, I grabbed the kid and pinched him when I pulled him in. I grabbed his arm and I pinched it, and it made him cry. And he was upset, and I stood him in the back. I reached around, I stood him, and I looked back, and he was standing up on that dinghy, and it was, level with the I was like, get down. So I'm yelling at the kid. I'm trying to get him down. I upset him. We had him crying because everything was kind of a panic. Yeah. And I was being gentle as I could, but I had to be as forceful as I could because it was, one of those get caught and rip your arm off days. Mm-hmm. So I said, send me the mother because I needed the kid covered. And I got the salon opened up, and we got the kid inside, and I got the mother in, she came aboard with a handful of hair. That's how I got her in. She stood up like she was just going to step in, and she went flying, and I grabbed her by the hair and pulled her into the boat. So now she's crying. There's number 2 in the boat, and I'm looking at this poor golden retriever, and I'm thinking, I don't want to leave him. No. But I said, will he be okay if we leave him in the boat? And the father finally said, what are my choices? I said, you get in or you ride with the dog. And I said, and if I were you, I wouldn't want to be back there. I said, if things go south, we'll go get him and lose the boat. But I said, I'm not going to try to move the dog in here. Mm-hmm. It was too rough. There's too much going on. We were just, crashing and smashing, and we had at the time, what would be a $500,000 boat now, and we weren't gonna worry about, his 1995 rowboat. Yeah. So got him in on board, made a bridle, had it all set up, and I gave him specific directions on what to do, and he let go of the rope and pinched me, and I was like, yelling to Scott. I said, back down. He's backing down. I'm getting cut in two. And I get out of the bite. And I looked at the guy and I go, I said, do you have any, I was mad at him. I said, do you have any idea how far out of your league you are at this moment? And he's like, no. He didn't either. So anyway, long story. But, not always, you can't always be. Guidance not always fun, and it's not always when you're doing directing and you're taking care of people and you're responsible for their well-being. Like this guy, they come in thinking they know everything. Oh yeah, and they don't know anything. And so guys like Stephen and I take them by the hand and gently, and not rudely, nope. Make them feel like it's their day. Make them have the best day they possibly would have ever had. Had we not been there, they would have probably, been upside down in the bay on the kayak.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is where it.
So we're having a great conversation here, and I'm already like, wow, we haven't even gotten to another whole genre of stuff in the outdoor and the guiding, hunting, fishing world. And I'm really thinking we're gonna probably for our next season we're gonna do a second episode that's focused on that side of things. I'm gonna steer a couple other places right now, and staying more into kind of where you've already been going, and one of them is it's a legacy thing for me a little bit. I said at the very beginning, almost like a big brother. I shot my first duck with you.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
On Rocky Pond.
On Rocky Pond, and then little side story came up there. All of a sudden, I remember one day we're there. We're both down at the pond. There's ducks flying in. We're like, okay. All of a sudden, behind us, kaboom!
Who in the heck was that?
Your father had come in.
Snuck in behind us, right?
We didn't know he was there. Scared the bejesus out of us.
We still didn't know who it was. He's like, send your dog out to get the duck. I'm like, kiss my ass. You get your own damn duck. I didn't know it was my dad. I'm telling him off.
Yeah.
I'm like sneaking in on us while we're sitting on decoys, shooting the duck out from under us. And I didn't know it was Dad.
No.
I thought it was some stranger, and I bawled him out. And you're like, it's your old man. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I remember.
Just a minute, I'll get the dog for you.
So fast forward, must be 30 plus years. Or maybe not that long, 25. My son Stevens shot his first duck.
With me.
Out with us out sea duck hunting.
Right. That was out we were down off Port Clyde.
Yeah. And then fast forward a couple more years, and Zachary was out with us as well.
And shot his first duck.
I
know. I tell that story every once in a while about when somebody says longevity. How long have you been doing this? And they go, well, I've got,
Yeah. It's a lot of legacy there. And then it even gets a little more interesting twist that Stephen is guiding now with your boat.
Yeah, that's right. I sold him my old boat. He's my biggest competition. I sold him a boat. Well, yeah. So I was really worried about it. Well, it's like anything else. I told him if he wanted to learn how to duck hunt, professionally, I would go with him and work with him and let him do the client building. I'm all done with it. The sea ducks is pretty hard right now. I got out of it at the right time because the population really took a nosedive. And I hate to say it out loud because I don't want the guys that are going they're doing it, and they're getting scoter and they're getting ducks and they're having a good time with it. It's a different experience than it was when I started.
Yeah.
And you could, the days when we'd go, you had a 7 duck limit, and I can remember 3 shooters with 21 ducks in 45 minutes.
Yeah, no time flat.
And those days were long gone. And toward the end, we were 8-hour trips getting the limits. But they were, it was a lot of work, but it was fun work. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do it. And I had the dogs, and you can see the photos on the walls of some of the ducks. Mm-hmm. And all the dogs and the ribbons from the dogs and different things. I've had, beagles and blue ticks and red bones and Labradors. And
cool.
And we've raised a lot of that over the years. That's a whole nother
That's
complete,
for sure.
That's a whole complete show in itself, just the dog story. 30 some odd dogs later.
So you started a minute ago to say something that I wanted to play off of, and you've lived a life in many ways that many people would romanticize about.
Yeah, I suppose I have.
But few actually stick with it. Few people live the lifestyle and do it the way you have. So what is that required, or what is that? How is that?
That's a great question. I owned 2 camps and property up north before I owned a house. I didn't own a home.
Yeah.
I built a camp down east, and we used that for bird hunting. And my wife and I would camp there, and I still have that property. It's almost 100 acres. It's like 90, close to 90 some acres, and a little cabin down in Millbridge. And that's got that property from one of my mother's relatives. Mm-hmm. And we bought a few more pieces and added to it, and it ended up fantastic woodcock hunting. And it's phenomenal grouse and all that down in that area. And the trout fishing down east is, everybody talks about up north. Down east is really good. Mm-hmm. And if you get up Stud Mill and around that way, there's some fantastic woods down there, but it ended up the guys from Rockwood found out about me and said, hey, you got to come up. And so I ended up partnering on another camp with 45 acres, and that's 10 Mile Camp. And that's where the legacy kind of grew from there, because it was, I had supports up there with Bob Lawrence, Lawrence's Lakeside Cabins, and he had started out, he owned Russell Pond Camps up on 490 Road, and he had made friends with John Hesh, who lived just above you. And John and I started there's another thing I did, started the Mid-Coast Bow Hunters Archery Club. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that one.
That was probably a little before your time. That was when I first got married. I bought my first bow and didn't have anywhere to shoot with. So I put a target in the yard and started practicing, and a couple of the guys saw me, and I said, hey, we got to start a club. And then we went up to Mel Raven's chicken barn, Stuart Raven's father, and had a 40-yard indoor range.
Nice.
And we shot all winter in there, and then we came down, and I had 28 woods targets set up here where the house is now. And you go through different animals, different yardages, and practice. And so we'd practice for hunting. And it turned out that I ended up throwing one of the state-sanctioned club shoots here.
Oh, cool.
And people from all over the state came and shot on my range, which was kind of cool. That was just a side. And that just adds to one more skill set that went with that. I took the instructor's courses, and I was teaching people how to do proper. So that was another piece of it. Just another little tangent.
Yep. Often another adventure, that's for sure.
A different shoot.
So I want to take a little somewhere else too. What do you think the way you've chosen to live your life?
Oh, don't do this. If you got a day job, just stay there and suffer.
But what has it taught you about yourself that if you had just had the day job, you just said don't go do. I mean, if you had just had the day job, what is the life you've lived now?
Well, you can. That's a great question too. They're hard to answer because it's going to be different for every person. Yep. I don't regret any of the day jobs I had. None of them. They all led to something else.
Yep.
Everything was for a reason. Every job I took, I could come up with a reason why I needed to do that for a while, and what I thought it might lead to. That's a big part of how my thinking is, why am I doing this? Can I turn this into something else? Mm-hmm. And so I guess if you're going to pick a job, pick something that parallels what you want to do if you can't do what you want to do. And then you can always, off-ramp back onto what you're wanting to do. And I said, a lot of the yacht stuff was off-grid. And you had to know how to manage batteries. You had to know how to manage, plumbing that wasn't connected to a septic system. You had to manage, all of those systems, the engines, same if you live off grid. You've got generators they're trying to keep running. You've got battery lighting. You've got to keep running. You've got so when I would pick a job, I usually would try to pick a job that would parallel
Cool.
somewhat.
I think it's great advice.
I think if you can do that, you're lucky. But getting, and then also finding a job. But I stayed at the boatyard for so many years because I loved it. It was satisfying. But like I said, 10 years in, I got
A little itch.
Yeah, I got to start doing that. So, the boats were all in the water and the guys from up, and I'm building the camps and I'm still working toward it all the time. I'm still working toward that all the time. If spare time, weekends, whatever. And the guys that were, they knew I ran beagles. They knew I ran hounds. They knew I could run a dog. And one of them says, "Hey, can you come up? I got clients coming. I got 2 groups. I don't know what to do. I need a guy to run it." And I said, "Well, I've never done a bear hunt with dogs and a client." And he's like, "There's nothing to it. Come on up." He says, "You can do it. You know all the roads." I've been up helping bait, and they knew early. I said, "All right,
we'll figure it out."
So that picture right there with those
that group of people, yeah.
Yep, that was my first kill. 468 pounds, and
Nice.
It was the biggest bear of the year out of all that area. And it was my first one ever. And I got it with a bunch of old guys from South Carolina.
Nice.
Running their dogs with them. And we had one of our dogs, and our dog lined it all out and did the work, probably more than theirs did. And the guy killed it with a 30-30 from me to you.
Oh, wow.
On the run, coming right at us.
Cool.
So that's number one. And I was probably... You can see in the picture, my hair is not gray.
Well, a few years ago.
That was a few years back.
So,
35 years ago.
Yeah.
When I started, it was 93.
Cool.
So 30, whatever that is, 93.
So we're going to start wrapping up here, but you said something else earlier, and you actually mentioned it a few days ago when we were chatting. You've always put yourself in a position to say yes.
Yeah. Being available.
Yeah. When the opportunity arises.
Yeah. You have to keep yourself low to the ground.
That's the other thing. I couldn't remember what you said, and I was like, low to the ground. I liked that.
Yeah. You've got to fly just above the grass. You got to be able to touch down any minute, and, you might have to run a ways to keep from falling down. But if you can stay, don't get in over your head. The things will come. The things you want will come. If you're gonna do what I do, your priorities are this or that. And you have a family and you have children. That's why I don't live in Montana right now. My wife ended up with kids. I don't know how that happened. They can't be mine. I wasn't in the plan, but. I love my sons. Fantastic addition to my world. Mm-hmm. And what happened, you prioritize the things that have to be prioritized. But I've always managed, luckily, to keep myself in a position where I could say yes to anything. Or if I worked with somebody, or if I worked with when I worked at Rockport, like I said, Taylor was a fantastic boss, and he was all about trying stuff. And I remember the day I told him that I was going to go. He and I were doing moorings. I was diving, and I came up, and I'm sitting on the barge, and I'm talking to him, and I go, "Hey, some of the guys I hang out with up north want me to come up and help them do a bear hunt this fall, and I could do it, and I could be back by October 1st. He's like, "What are you waiting for?" I'm like, "Seriously?" He goes, "Yeah, what are you waiting for? Go do it."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So having that relationship, that's the kind of relationship I had with him the whole time I worked for him. It was amazing. He's an amazing person.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to be a part of what he was doing, because he was following his passion and he understood it and he knew what I was there doing it. But, I had my own ideas too, and happy to see me make headway. And he was one of the guys who signed off on some of my sea time.
Oh, okay. Cool.
As well when I got my license. So he was promoting me the whole time. There was no hard feelings. And I remember the last conversation. I said, man, I feel guilty quitting when I finally had to go full-time guide. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know. I felt so obligated to him. And he said, "You get your last paycheck?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we're even." I thought, what a great way to what a great way to look at life.
Yeah.
The skills were mine, is what he was telling me.
There's a few of those great bosses out
there.
Yeah,
the skills were mine. So what I learned from working with him, I get to keep.
Yep.
And so I think that's important. So keeping yourself low to the ground, meaning don't get in too deep. Don't, you watch these guys, you've seen them. I've seen them come and go. These guys, they go out and buy all the stuff, the new truck, the new boat, the new set, and then 2 years later they're
no longer
walking down the street talking to their lunch pail, wondering what happened. What did I do? Build it slow, and always look at any guiding work. I always look at it like it could end tomorrow. Okay. And I always look at it like it's this is my last trip.
Yeah. So a question we ask everybody on these podcasts is, what does adventure at this point in your life mean to you?
Well, we've talked about lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I think the deeper part of it is, do you want to lay on your bed, taking your last breath, and say, geez, I wish I'd worked more? Or, man, I'm glad I never got to do any of that stuff. You have to kind of think about, I mean, it's sort of morbid to think about the last breath, but I don't want to look back. I never want to look back and say, I think, everybody has regrets about everything. You wish you made more money. You wish you did this. You wish you did that. Set yourself up better, or left your kids better, or whatever that is. If that's even possible nowadays. We've had this discussion about leaving things behind. There's it doesn't work that way anymore.
Well, oftentimes.
Our mother's best intentions.
Yep.
Both of our mother's best intentions. Yes. But luckily they raised us in a way that gave us opportunity. And hopefully we've done the same.
Some morals, some ethics.
Yeah, and hopefully we've done the same with our kids, and that's their legacy. I think that'll be the legacy of most of the people nowadays because, financially anyway, it's difficult to manage to keep any amount with the way things are set up. But not to get political, try adventure to me, or the lifestyle I've lived is no regrets.
That's awesome.
Just no regrets.
So I throw a quote out oftentimes in these, and I found one interestingly today. It's not directly attributed to, but supposedly it's somehow tied to Winnie the Pooh.
Good, because when I was a kid, I loved Winnie the Pooh.
Okay, I didn't know that. But
there's a lot of weird things about me that people don't.
But the quote, which I thought was fitting, was, "Life was made for good friends and great adventures."
Yes.
And I think that's very fitting for the discussion we've been having. So I am thinking that you mentioned 10 Mile.
Yes.
I've been up there a few times. I love the place, and I'll be definitely coming back up. I'm thinking as season 2 of this podcast continues,
we should do it up there.
We should do a follow-on podcast.
Let's look at this fall.
Yeah. And we're gonna dig into the actual adventure around guiding and hunting and what has all happened and what better place to do it than right there at 10
Yeah,
Mile?
we should do something up there, and you can show off your work you did when you came up and helped me. So I'm joking about. I said that to somebody the other day. I said Steve put down 4 sheets of plywood and built a knee wall and did that, and I said I put in that strip of trim on the floor.
Oh, it did a lot more than that.
Well, the camp is so crooked. It took me half a day to get the piece to fit. Because things are so out of whack, but we've come a long way with that project.
The pictures. I want to get back up there and see it because the pictures you show me are great.
It was. I was talking to David Eaton, who stayed up there rabbit hunting with me one time. He said, "I've never been so cold in my life." And I said, "David," I go, his brother Danny snowmobiles with me, and he was up there this winter. We went in, we lit the fires. Lit the thing, and within 30 minutes we had our coats off and we were comfortable. So there's a huge difference in the camp now, and it's getting to be more 4 season than it used to be. It was
cool.
It was good 3 season, but now it's great.
So with that, we're going to wrap this up. Looking forward to what's going to happen next in the next conversation. I think from those that are listening or watching, you'll see that Cliff and I could probably go on for 2-3 hours, 2-3 days. Yeah,
because there's a lot of subjects that we didn't even.
We just brushed the surface of a couple things, and we'll come back to those in the future. The key here is Clifton didn't choose a life of comfort. Comfort is, again, it comforts the enemy, and to live your adventure, you've got to decide to live that life of adventure.
Right.
And you get to the point where it's not even a conscious decision. It's just what you do. And that's what I think is so key with how I've watched you live your life.
Yeah, you've got to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said I wanted to put a group of men and their boys together and watch them get their skinny jeans muddy. Jokingly, but that's, I think the culture has not lended to tough kids or not allowed it.
Right.
And we need to allow it.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to give them outlets. So that's something I want to talk about as well.
Cool. So as we wrap this up, we're not going to talk about the guiding side too much here, but you do guide, you run fishing trips.
Yes.
So if somebody listening to this wants to get out and do some fishing or anything else with you, where do they find you?
You can call me or text me or email me. Yeah. My telephone is 207-542-8777.
Yep.
And you can call or text. And I do bass fishing trips in Camden. Right now, that's what we're pretty much down to. The camp I worked with up north has changed hands, so I'm not working with them any longer. Cool. But the other thing you can do is email if you're out of town and you see this and you want to email. But I say the best thing is text or call me. Just call me up.
You got a website as well, don't you?
I do. It's 10 Mile, WW 10 Mile Guide.
Great.
And the other is, it may be 10 Mile Guide Service. If you search for
10 Mile Guide Outfitters,
I never used my website.
You'll find it.
But the other, the email is 10mileguide@gmail.com.
Perfect.
So,
well, with that, thank you very much for agreeing to sit down with me, Cliff, and we're going to do this again soon.
Okay, good. Let's plan to finish this up in October at the camp.
Absolutely.
We'll have the generator humming in the background.
Cool. We'll do it with gas lights.
We got it.
Do it with gas lights.
Yeah,
we'll turn off the generator. Cool.
We can.
Awesome.
We can set the ambience up for Camp Lull.
Awesome. Thank you. And until next time, have fun and live your adventure.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Live Your Adventure podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button, follow us on social media at Hand Adventures, and for your next adventure, define it, pursue it, and live it.